I'm Voltan. I throw lightning bolts from my hand.
All right. Okay, you're live. We're gonna go to your shot in the intro in 3, 2, 1. That was probably a little loud, folks. Sorry about that. And you'll need your headphones, but you are live and good to go.
What does that mean? Like we're actually broadcasting?
You are broadcasting now.
Okay, well, I still have a few pages I need to share this biznaz on. Do that.
Doing a little sharing, folks. In the meantime, welcome to Season 2 of the World Class Fightcast. We're going to have a special guest on later on today, so we definitely appreciate you hanging on and joining us today. I am the producer of the show today, Radar Theory, and we have our host, as you all know, needs no introduction, Jimmy Ninja Chaikong. Doing a little bit of setup here, and then we're going to get going on an excellent show.
Do we need to send her something?
Yeah, actually, I have an invite here, and I'm gonna go ahead and send it to her to get our guest, Dr. Stephie Pierre, on the show right away.
I like your professional voice.
I've done this once or twice before.
It's very professional. So it's like very close to your normal speaking voice, but you can tell there's just like a smidge of professionalism thrown into the intonation.
Just put that, like, I'm absolutely here. Is there anything else I can do on your behalf?
Yeah. It's like you're the producer and you might work at Best Buy.
That's awesome. I sent Dr. Pierre that email, so we should be able to
Dope.
connect with her soon. I always have been told I have a perfect face for radio.
Whatever. Tell a new story.
That's true, honestly.
Many people find you quite beautiful. Me being one.
That's honestly.
Don't argue with the ninja. Never want a ninja. Like, I never understand why people like try to get on my bad side or just, whatever. Because I'm just like, you realize that I'm a ninja cowboy, which is even worse than just a ninja. And you want me to be upset with you? Is this really happening right now? Like, I never get that. I'm just like, you realize that I will not only sensei you, but I will probably whip and tie you behind a horse and other weird BDSM activities. I never used that word BDSM. It was always bondage to me, but
it's like bondage.
I'm in the middle of my life.
Sadism. I don't know. I honestly.
Wow, that's been a funny topic lately.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be better if I pretend I don't know anything about any of that. That's great. So Dr. Pierre should have our email, and we'll go ahead and get connected with her soon.
So I'm new to this format. So basically, what you're used to is it just goes on live, and then people who want to chime in can just chime in, or
yeah. Right now you have 2 viewers. Thank you for watching. By the way,
who's there? I want to know.
We're absolutely active in the chat as well. So
because that would be like my. Sorry.
No, not at all.
That would be like my normal like friend list. Like I literally have 2 friends, I think. So is it my 2 friends, and they're not my mom because my mom doesn't like me. So
I think they have to like announce themselves. It doesn't tell me.
Oh, probably the haters then. There's a lot of haters on it too. If you're a friend though, I'd like to know who you are. I'd like to know who my first 2 guests or my first 2 viewers on the new. What in the world? Why have you plugged up?
She's in our meeting. Are you able to hear us, Dr. Pierre?
Hey! There she
Hello.
is. Oh, I hear you.
Moi.
And you look so pretty.
Thank you. Need that 5 minutes.
Oh, is that what that 5 minutes was for?
Yeah.
Man, I take like 2 hours in the morning.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, most of it's spent sitting on the porcelain altar. But
say what?
Most of it's spent sitting on the porcelain altar in the smallest room in the house. But it has to be done. Man, you even got the South Florida bikini top on. Good Lord, we're gonna get some mad hits. Well, when they
You
get,
know how we use.
I know when they get into hearing what you are all about and what you do, though, it will make perfect sense because you are Bilquist, reincarnate. Are you familiar with Bilquist?
No, it's that.
She's like the African version of Aphrodite. She's like a kind of
Real
a
quick?
yeah. She's kind of the sex love goddess of fertility of
All
Africa,
right.
and she
I
will
like it.
she takes uh, both women and men because she's very PC, but it's true. She takes both men and women into her vagina, and then they are lost in the cosmos of her inner world. And this is how she becomes more powerful. Yeah, you need to look her up. You'll love her. She's like right up your alley. Like I said, you could be Bilquist. I've always believed that we were like incarnated demigods here.
You
Kind of.
know who I resonate a lot with, and it really started. Oh, it was like always there. But when I traveled to Cuba, and I went to go and bury my grandmother, and that's when I had my first awakening. Was Oshun,
I
who's
know
the
Oshun.
Afro-Cuban deity, um, very similar to Venus, but her thing is like laughter. Like, yes, she's about love and fertility and sensual pleasure, but it's like laughter, like the joy of laughter and the sweet waters is like when I do some of my healing sessions, it will just be pure laughter. And the client will be like, and she's like, I think we're done. I'm like, yeah, like all you needed was just to laugh. And because that laughter is so pure, it like purifies everything and it opens up all of the channels and all the vessels to allow that flow to happen in the body. So I have never heard of Bilquist, you said, is like with a B or something?
Correct. Bilquist.
But Oshun is the Afro-Cuban version of Venus.
Man, that is so fascinating. I'm really so inspired to hear your tale because I think that was the longest I've been quiet for months listening to you talk about it. And I just want to give a quick shout out though to our new producer. We have a new producer on the show making us look beautiful, and that's Radar Theory. He's also a hip hop artist and
Right.
a friend and a student, and amazing people that I surround myself with, like yourself. And I want to give him props for the amazing setup we have today. Can you see me okay and hear me okay?
No, I was actually just going to say that. I can't see you at all. What there is there's an image of some other guy with like a hood on.
That's me.
Okay, we might not be set up for that yet.
I'm
so.
setting up. I was trying to set up the webcam through the Zoom, and I think we
That
are having
Adrian?
problems. But you should be able to see yourself through the live broadcast right now.
Can you see
I
you?
see myself in the upper right corner.
Well, that's good. At least you can see you. You're the best looking part of the screen so far, anyway. So
Aww.
you're sitting
But
on my
okay.
desk in my view window. You're sitting on my desk like a little fairy gnome, and I love it.
Next to the alien
Aw.
head.
It's kind of how I always dreamed and envisioned you would be in my life, like a little fairy gnome that sat near me. But if I wanted to turn it off, I could turn it off.
Oh, it's off now.
Thank you.
And
Oh,
now
that's
it's
so sweet.
Well,
I like that.
You're Bilquist. Everyone loves you.
I'm Bilquist. I'm Siren Creatrix.
You are. And you need to give out some of those things where people can find you because this is a little different format for me. I'm used to us kind of like calling and the phone answering and then we kind of start the podcast right there. And so Radar is much more intellectual and savvy in these things than I am. So he's got us just kind of going and recording, and I guess at any of this we can pull off later
Are
for
you
YouTube.
streaming right now on Facebook? Is that what you had?
We are.
Yeah, it's a live
You are?
stream right now.
Yeah.
It's a live stream. What is it on?
It's on Facebook right now.
You
I
can go to
send
my
it
page,
directly.
right? She can go to my.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's on
and then
Jimmy.
she can share it because we're just. I have so many people on my main page that I just kind of share it to all the other
Yeah, that's what I
formats.
mean. It's
And
on-
then
So what's your main page? Because I see like a couple of them.
Jim-
There's Jimmy
so many
Chaikong.
people on
Just
my main
Jim.
page that Jim Chaikong.
Okay.
Yeah, she's got to add herself back on because she probably fell out of love with me a few times this last.
Well, if you need, I can send you an email with that link as well.
I have this relationship with people. They love me and they hate me, and then they love me again, and then they hate me again. I could be Loki. I'm not sure. I
I don't
kind
think
of.
I've had that experience yet with you.
Oh, I don't believe you, but whatever.
No, actually, I haven't. All right, so
Whatever.
I'm on your page, but yeah, I'm not seeing because I would love to share this. Can you email it to me? Can you email me the link
I'm in the
or
middle
send
of
it to
that
me?
as we speak. I'm happy to do that for you.
Okay, cool. That way I can share it on my
Yeah.
page. That'd be great.
But while he's getting that done, why don't you just introduce yourself? And for some people who didn't see season one, which that was one of our most heavily watched podcasts from season one, was yours, and probably Master Ricardo Laborio's and Jeff Munson, the Snowman Jeff Munson, were the top three watched podcast, and they didn't even see you yet. It was purely intellectual and audio. So now they get to see the goddess behind the voice. So yeah, right. So
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm so honored and appreciative to be on here with other great people. I love you,
thank you.
and
Love you too.
and I'm excited to get to know Adrian, a little bit more. So thank you so much for creating this space and having me on here. And let's see, like when people ask me about me, I'm like, and what do I do? I like it would be probably easier for me to be like what I don't do because that is I'm a multi-passionate, multi-disciplined artist. So you know my background, like as far as school, like if we want to go like that route, which I know, like our culture and our society, we have like this thing that's inbred in us. It's like, oh, what do you do? What did you go to school for? What are your credentials? So
Right.
I do have a background in and a degree in Chinese medicine. I'm a doctor of Oriental medicine, and I just like so fell in love with the philosophy. Like for me, once I was turned on to Chinese medicine because it was all about nature. The way that the methodology of acupuncture and Chinese medicine is about attuning yourself to be in harmony with nature because we're a microcosm, meaning we're a small piece of the macrocosm. So there's a beautiful axiom in alchemy that is as above, so below, as within, so without. And I really fell in love with the fact that we are these like little bumps on the earth. Like we are children of the earth. And the more that we see ourselves that way as children of Gaia, of this planet, then we get to live in harmony, with the rhythms, the natural rhythms and the seasons of the earth, but also with other people and in our bodies for health and healing. So, I did that for a while. I still am, I still treat people with acupuncture but like I was saying before, when I buried my grandmother, my abuela, in what year was that? It was 2014. Yeah, I believe it was 2014 or maybe it was 2015. As soon as my feet touched the ground, there was something inside of me that was like, that woke up, and I remembered all of my roots. I remembered the magic and speaking to the other side and communing and working with my ancestors. And even the way that I got to Cuba was an initiation of hearing my grandmother speak to me from the other side. And she told me, she's like, you have to go back to your roots. And that initiated me in this. Huh?
That was a sneeze.
That initiated me into this process of just like getting myself to go to Cuba. And so, after that, it was like I was just ready for a new set of lens, and I think that that's a big thing that, it has followed me throughout my life is I'm always looking for a new perspective, a new way to see the world, a new way to see myself, a new way to see other people. And so I get bored. So after a while, as I was consuming and mastering and just like honing in on my craft with Chinese medicine, at a certain point, I was just like, I'm bored. I'm ready for a new lens. And so that has expanded to include astrology and alchemy and perfumery. And then, I really reclaimed music, which is, one of the great connections that Jimmy and I have is music and songwriting and singing. And that was like, I would say is my first love. I had a singing.
You were even a scholarship recipient at the University
Yeah.
of Miami for singing, which a lot of people don't know, which is really outstanding. I mean, that's just completely outstanding.
Yeah, thank you. And so I did have that, and I ended up not pursuing that path. And that was, at that time was, it was, I had this feeling of like, well, what am I going to do with music? Like, meaning, like, is that something secure? I had the whole starving artist imprint, because that was something that was in my family. It was something that I saw, that I learned. And, through this journey, it's so funny how I came back full circle. And now that's a big part of the work that I'm doing is to clear all of these programs that we have around, pursuing our passions and pursuing our art and the things that we really, really love, our purpose. And that gets to equal prosperity as opposed to, doing what it is. Like, you have to do a job because, it's going to pay the bills, or it's going to be safe, or it's going to be sustainable. And then what happens is that leads to so many people just living a life that's unfulfilled, and they're just living for the paycheck, like they're living for the paycheck and then realizing like, 10, 20 years down the line that they hate their life and they're frustrated and miserable and they wonder why. And it's a lot of this has to do with all of these beliefs and programs that we have around what it means to be successful, what it means to be, to be able to provide for your family, to be in health. There's all of this. So that's a big part of the work that I'm doing now because I have gone through it and I've faced those and I continue to. It's like it's a never ending journey of like facing the fears of what if I do something, that I'm going to be rejected and it's not going to work out and I'm not going to get paid, right? And it's like when we clear all of that stuff, it's this journey that we take of self-discovery and going into the wild of our hearts. And the thing about, and I guess like if I was to summarize everything up is like, I'm a metaphysical heart surgeon. Like I'm all about living from the heart, being led from the heart, leading other leaders to live their life from the heart and heal our hearts so that, because the heart path is the middle path, it's meaning it's the in between heaven and earth. So I truly believe that we are here to create a heaven on earth experience. And the only way that we're able to do that is to follow the path of our heart. But the path of the heart is uncharted, meaning it's if the path is already, if you're following a path that's already there, you're not following the path of your heart. You're following somebody else's path. And so it takes a tremendous amount of courage and and also stamina, I believe, to blaze your own trail. And there's a lot of programming and things that keep us from doing that. So that's what I'm about. That's what that's what I stand for. And that's also, what I choose to awaken or heal or calibrate other people to. And so that can change from one moment to the next. And that's why you'll see me like I'm doing a song or I'm coming out with the sound healing prescription. And the next week I'm painting a picture, or the next week, I'm doing this group program, and it all gets woven into each other. And I am seeing like it is becoming all this one masterpiece.
Right.
And
I feel that a lot right now because for the first time in my life, all of the seeds that I planted a few years ago from music to the dojo, to the podcast, to the record label, to the book, to myself as not just a sensei or as an individual, as a father, as a business person. Like all these things are starting to tie in and make sense, like why I was interested in doing this a few years ago, and now it's becoming a thing where, you know, not only did I take the first step, which a lot of artists, I love that you touch base. I want to backtrack on what you touch base about artists and making a living and all that, because I definitely understand that, because a lot of us are on different, we're on the same path, especially with you, me, and Radar in the same room, and we're all guys who really dream about, you know, having that, you know, I wouldn't say Whitney Houston career because crack is whack, but you know, we still dream and we manifest, and there's reasons why things happen or don't happen, and I'm, you know, I'm so connected with either the voice in my head or spirit, one of the two, that I don't have any confusion about why I do what I do or what's going on or where I'm at on the path or what's going to happen next. Like, I'm very in tune, like a Jedi, with the Force, and I know exactly why I'm at where I'm at. And maybe I didn't a year or two ago, but I do now. Like presently, I'm as in tune as I've ever been, and it's a wonderful feeling. But like I was saying, one of the things you said that really clicked off to me is a few years ago, you know, I was in the dream big time, and you all know when I was there in South Florida, and you know, my manager Danny the General had this dream of like, hey, you know what, maybe we can make a real artist occur, because we met Ismail from Expose, who had you know, Expose had Seasons Change and Point of No Return, these #1 hits, and Jennifer met them at a party, and they're like, hey, we want to do an album with you. They were talking to Jennifer, and Jennifer's like, I gotta get a hold of Jimmy. I'm living in Dallas at the time, because he's like, do you have any original music? And they're like, we gotta get a hold of Jimmy, because Jimmy's a songwriter. That's what he does. And that turned into me getting signed, and it turned into me having a video shot in LA and moving to New York City and being managed by Ron Alexenberg from Epic Records, CBS Records, Infinity Records, who signed Michael Jackson after he left Jackson 5, and signed Meatloaf and a few other bands you might have heard of, Kansas and Heart, and he was just managing me. And I couldn't believe, like, all of a sudden this guy who just liked to drink and bang broads and play in bars was actually living the dream. And I was actually, and this was years ago, I'm not that same guy, like I don't drink whiskey anymore, but I'm totally can't believe that this is actually happening. I cannot believe that I'm at Magic Johnson Theater in Harlem, watching my video in a top 5 finalist with other artists on MTV2, who a few of them I can think of. Not Aaliyah, but there was another one that was like that. I think she was in the movie with Jet Li, and then
Romeo Must Die.
Yeah, Twist, and then Twist.
Romeo Must Die.
Yeah, and then Twister or Twista, and the other guy, I can't think of those guys' names right now. Anyway, I'm there with them in the audience, and they're like, and our director from California didn't come to this event in New York, but we were there. All my investors and managers were there, and some friends, and they're like, does anyone want to get up and talk about the video Angel I'm talking about? You know, you guys know it because you're my friends, but if you don't know it, YouTube Angel Jimmy Ninja, and you'll get to see my video that was on MTV2 for a spin. And I'm actually there going, oh my God, this is really happening. And then
that's amazing.
7 years later, when I kind of walked away with the whole rock star story, you know, the whole sex, drugs, and rock and roll and blah, blah, blah. And 10 years later, which is where I'm at now, finding my way back to an even greater success than what that was. And I want to describe what that is to you in a second, but I want to go back a little bit before we get into that, of how I could even have a greater success than that. But I actually had to fall from quite a high mountain to get back to where I'm at today, and which is in complete harmony with myself, my divine purpose, I was finally able to have this vision quest that I've been waiting over 10 years to have in the Valley of the Dinosaurs this summer when I went camping in the river, and I want to tell you about that a little bit because I'm very into the native traditions and being here, like you talked about the earth already in Gaia. And so many people that are suffering these days, I think one of the biggest reasons is they are detached from nature. They are detached from
Absolutely.
Gaia. And I try to talk a little, I've learned to speak a little bit more plain English here in Texas because I've noticed, like in South Florida, some bigger markets, people don't, they're not as afraid of words. But here in this market I've been, in the South, you know, and I'm a Southern man, so I get it. But, you know, I've just learned to speak different in different places. But, you know, just not being in
I want to
nature.
share something with you that kind of goes along with this, and just kind of like drop this in here, and
Drop it like it's hot.
drop it like it's hot. You know, I have had experiences with other people, and other people have had this experience with me where, you know, because everything is energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yeah, Tesla's
Okay.
quote.
Nikola Tesla has that great quote. If you want to learn the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And so, you know, more and more as we are evolving, like we're seeing, you know, like they've been able to prove that, you know, energy and our thoughts influence matter, meaning the real, the things that we can touch, taste, feel with our five senses. So when we have conversations with people, sometimes it doesn't even matter what we're saying. It's the energy, it's the frequency, it's the feeling that is what people want. You know, like anytime, and there's not, and I'm not like saying that there is not value, because there absolutely is value, right? Like our ability to put things, information, to translate and understand and integrate what we're learning absolutely has to do with language and breaking it down very simple so it's digestible. However, I also just I it's so important for us not to discount energy, that you know, it's, we are activated by each other's energy. So sometimes you can have a conversation with somebody and be totally activated, and like I don't know what the fuck she was, excuse me, I don't know what she was talking
You
about,
can curse
but
on
I
it.
feel so lit and I am so excited. I am ready to fucking do my shit. And that's what they came for.
Right.
Because it's the energy. Everything that we want in life is because of the light. We want the light. We want the emotions. We want the feelings of that we think we're going to get in the having of something. So
Right.
it's, I really want to speak to that, you know, that, and I think that this is also one way that, you know, certain people, you know, can learn how to navigate and attune themselves to who they're supposed to be working with, who they're supposed to be aligned with. Like, you know, it's trusting your feelings, trusting your intuition and the sensations that your body is giving you, because we're not designed to be making decisions with our mind. We're designed to make decisions with our body. Our body is the vehicle, it's the vessel that is what is taking us through this experience on earth. So if you're using your mind and logic, and this is goes back to exactly what you're saying, how you're like, you know, I didn't really understand at the time why I was doing X, Y, and Z, but I just knew. There was an inner knowing, there was a faith, there was a pull from your heart,
I like the word being. I like the word being. Like I'll
from your being,
yeah,
from your being that was leading you towards somewhere, and it may not make logical sense to your mind, but it makes total sense, you know, for the whole picture, for the whole thing. And intuition is, again, it's something that's sensational. It's a feeling that you get in your body, and it has a lot less to do with what may make logical sense.
Right. Let me interrupt for a second. I want to say something about what you just said. My whole life, I have never done what people have told me to do. I have never, like my mom, my dad wanted me to play football. I wanted to do gymnastics. My parents wanted me to go to the Air Force Academy on scholarship. I went to OU because I didn't want to do more military, because I grew up in that household. The last thing I wanted to do was go do more. Um, my I was gonna become a scientist in college. I found the guitar and fighting, and I quit going to class. So I had to drop down to recreation management and health science. I was going to become a stuntman. I met these two girls in Daytona at college cheerleading nationals, NCA, go NCA, and I wanted to go to South Florida where they were at in Boca Raton, and that's where I met you guys. But I followed the guitar, I followed music, I followed Aphrodite's call, I followed my passion to fight, and I followed my intuition and my heart, which always said, follow these things you love more than these people's advice. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to share that because I think when you said intuition, it made me think of that whole kind of chain mail, how that kind of broke down. Even when I got back here, I was like, what are you going to do here? You're here for your dad's passing, which recently just happened. God rest his soul, Walter. And which I thought was going to happen 10 years ago. But I'm here not realizing, what are you going to do? You've been in South Florida. You just this first year of doing some TV shows and a movie, and you're still playing music, and now you're back in Abilene. What are you going to do? Again, my intuition rose and said, go teach, go find some gigs, follow your intuition, follow your heart. And 10 years later, I'm doing big giant concerts with guys like Doug Stone headlining. I've been my 7th year of the Texas Songwriters Championship I created from scratch. I'm playing shows all over the country just in the last few months. I've done Fort Lauderdale and Dallas and Austin, and I'm actually heading to Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach December 2nd and 4th at Bull Bar in Delray. And I'm working on the 2nd season with Radar here of the world-class Fightcast. So following my intuition led me to my career, not listening to the advice of everyone who thought they knew better for me. And one of the reasons is I think people do not hear your heart or your calling, which to me it's really the same thing, between you and your creator or you and your heart space. Only you hear this. So what a lot of people are battling with is battling the world or the people in it that they love so dearly, and then following the calling of their heart or their connection with creator, which to me are the same thing. Luckily for me, people never liked me because on my block in North Crockett, I was just that chinky kid that was different than everybody else in a neighborhood of black and Hispanics and white trash people, which I loved them all. But my point is, when you're disdained from the very beginning and people always judged you from the outside looking in without getting to know you, you learn to love yourself very early on, because if you won't, nobody else is. So you have to start. So from a very early age, I knew that I was going to do what I wanted to do almost every time. I would, like Paris Hilton, I'd tell people yes, but I was just going to do what I wanted to do, because at the end of the day, it was me that laid in bed either happy about the day because I did what I wanted to do, or disappointed because I was forced into doing something else. And that was a thought I had about the intuition thing you just said. I want you to diatribe for a second because I have to hit the banyo.
Well, I want to share something that...
I want to hear it too, though.
Oh, okay.
No, you're good. You're good. I got to hear it.
Oh, I mean,
You're one of my real sages. People don't realize I don't go and talk to a lot of enlightened people. I'm that connected with my own source. But you're one of the few people in my life that I've actually asked your opinion about enlightened things. And I think that's very important for people to know, because I have quite a few people that follow me worldwide for guidance and for spiritual, and I don't consider myself a guru. I think all those words are silly and ridiculous. You're either connected with source or you're not. I think Jay-Z, when that guy's rapping, he is connected with source. When I'm in my element, I'm connected with source. And you're one of those people that you are so connected with your source that I started actually asking you to help me. You helped me to do a childhood past regression, I think last year or the year before, which was very healing for me. You help me. I watch your weekly broadcast on mostly on Instagram that I find very enlightening, and they're always exactly what I need to hear when I tune into them because my frequency is very in tune. When I can't connect with the creator, as far as I'm too busy to meditate, or I'm just too busy in my own head. Sometimes he'll use social media or people speaking. So I want them to listen to you and connect with you.
Well, thank you. I I what I have to say about that is, we all have the answers within us. So and to speak to what you're saying is when you connect with somebody who is connected to their own inner knowing, it will naturally turn it on within you. So when you are connecting with me, I'm turning that on with you. And I feel this about all like great mentors or teachers or coaches, healers. They will turn you on to your medicine. So if you were to ask me a question of what do you think I should do, or what do you think about so and so problem, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that answer back onto you and hold the space for you to find that within you, for you to find and cultivate that relationship and that channel, and then strengthen that channel so that you number one, it, like it's like, this is what it is. Like I know how it feels when I'm connected.
Yeah, he is. He's on his break right now, but he will be right back.
Should I be speaking because there's a bunch of background noise happening right now, or should we take a community break? Say, say what? Ah, yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. But well, it's distracting for me.
Which was to drink way too much liquid before we got going. But I can watch this again and probably privately and
Well, I'll just
alone.
like recap. Like shortly, what I was saying is when you connect with me,
Right.
I'm just connecting you back to your source.
Correct.
And that's the value of our environment. And I think there's so much wisdom in what you're saying is being very discerning in who you surround yourself with, being discerning that you're surrounding yourself with other people that are tuned into their truth. Because when we are with other people that are tuned into their truth, it naturally turns that on within us. When you are lit up from within, you will naturally have that effect upon other people, which is why, like, not too long ago, I wrote this post about, because I was recently launching one of my programs, Mars Moxie, which is, all about creative confidence and your sexual potency, your vitality. And, what I had said is, I'm not going to teach you like how to do sex moves. I'm not going to be on here showing you, you know, um,
Sex moves.
cock worship videos. Like, I'm not going to do any of that stuff, but I can guarantee that by you being in my energy, you're going to get turned on. You're
Right.
going to get lit up from within. Your sexual, and I like, I'll have people come to me for like all sorts of things. And the number one thing that they'll be telling me is like, oh my God, like I'm having so much sex. And I'm like, yeah, it's because it's the energy. I don't even have to do anything. I don't even have to touch you and we're all like this. We all have a gift that when we are around other people, it naturally is going to get turned on. So, in coming back to the intuition, something that, and this is what ties into music, and I feel that this is something that's going to help our listeners, number one, to be able to distinguish what is intuition, meaning, it's easy for me to talk about, oh, just listen to your intuition, just listen to your intuition. But if somebody is very unfamiliar with what that is, that to them is like, what are you fucking talking about, right? And so, I'd like to share how to do that, and some basic simple things that will help you to cultivate this 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 energy, this practice, this relationship to your own intuition. Okay, so number one is intuition is about harmonics. Okay, meaning it's something that it's sensational. It's not a voice that from your brain. Like the voice of the brain or is very, that it has a different sound to it. It's more of a masculine, like logical, like like it can sound like a computer, right? It's like this script that's kind of like running, right? Versus intuition is something that you feel, meaning when somebody asks you, do you want to go here? Right away in your body, you're either going to get excited and feel like, ooh, or it's going to be like, you're not going to feel anything about it, right? And this is important though to distinguish is two things. So just hold that for a second. Hold that thought for a second, because there's two things that will really, really lead you, that is the path of your destiny. And the first thing is the things that excite you, the things that are like, ooh, like they're thrilling, they might be a little bit dangerous, you get excited about, you get turned on, you're, it's like, like, yeah, I want to do that. The second thing are the things that you have resistance to doing, meaning it's like those things where it's like, it's good for you, but it's like you don't want to do it. You're like avoiding it because it's like, and a lot of times the reason that why it actually feels hard is because it's the mind that is resisting doing something that's uncomfortable to you. So meaning you actually fear what you desire. All of your desires, on some level, you fear it because it's something you haven't experienced before. It's scary. It's in the unknown. And that's the whole purpose of the safety mechanism of the brain and of the logical brain is to keep you safe. So when the brain comes in the decision-making process, it's going to lead you away towards something that is unfamiliar. It's going to say, oh no, you can't handle that. That's not safe. This is a no-no. Your parents didn't do it. Nobody else is doing it in the world. It's going to come up with all of the reasons why not to do it. And that's what we have to train ourselves to see and to notice when the brain comes in and is like steering you to stay on the comfort zone. So, and this happens, it's so sneaky. It happens so fast. It'll happen without you even realizing it. And that's the nature of the subconscious, is meaning it's below the level of your awareness. You don't even realize that you're talking yourself out of what you want. So the ways to notice it is, number one, when you feel that excitement, when you feel that thrill, is to not hesitate. Of course, if you need to sleep on it to, some people, I absolutely do agree, will benefit from sleeping on something before making a big decision. But if you hesitate and you like he and ha and what will happen is that pathway that was open, that intuitive pathway, and this is really important, that about intuition is about harmonics, which means that when you make a decision based upon your intuition, it's naturally going to be in harmony with your external world, with your external reality. So you're going to be able to move through and go much faster through your journey on the terrain, on the pathway, than if you took the logical route, because you're making a decision that's naturally going to be in harmony with your external world. And that's why it has everything to do with harmonics, right? It's like you're naturally going to connect with the people that are in alignment, that are meant for you to play with. Versus if you don't make a decision based upon the intuition, you're going to have all these roadblocks. It's going to take time. It's going to feel a lot harder. You're going to be like, why is this taking so long?
Let me interrupt you
Because
for a second. Do you think sometimes that is also part of the journey of getting there? Because sometimes I ask myself, why is it not happening yet? Or why was this road or relationship taken instead of going directly to it? And my answer from, Spirit has always been, well, because that's part of it. You needed that too. You didn't just need the straight direct answer to everything and for everything to work out smoothly and for all the right people and right places and right timing. Like, you needed the wrong people and the wrong timing and the wrong places just as much, because without those lessons you're not changing, and without you changing you will not have a successful run at us just giving you the gifts, if that makes sense. You hear the connection?
yes. Okay. So what happens is this is, when we make a decision that is based upon, our alignment and our truth, or, and intuition, is if there is junk, meaning if we have emotional baggage that we're not meant to bring with us on the journey, that is what's going to come up for us to clear. And that is what's going to feel like it's a roadblock. That's what's going to feel like, like I'm having to go through all of this shit to get to where I want to go. And it's because you're having to clear your shit. So it's coming up for you because that shit can't go with you into the new vision, because it's not a part of your new vision. But if you're taking it with you, then yeah, it's going to come up for you to clear it. If you've let it go, and meaning, and this is what, there's an axiom, and forgive me, I don't know who is the author of this quote, but it is, having is evidence of wanting. So meaning, even if there's quote unquote bad stuff in your life, or stuff that you say that you don't like, people that you say you don't like, experiences that you say you don't like, the fact that you have it on some level, you're getting something from it. You're either, you want it because on a subconscious level, it feels familiar to you. So for example, if you were raised in a childhood environment where, and I'll just give an example. Like, I had a lot of controlling dynamics in my childhood. I visited my father in prison, so there was a lot of control, right? It's like people literally being controlled in limitation in a prison. That is my early imprint. I also experienced that, in other ways. So for me, that, even though I hate it, like, and that's, if you hear, my whole message is about liberation, it's liberating and freedom, is because I experienced so much of that control as a child, that even though I don't like it and I have a very rebellious spirit, that's the reason I came here, was to liberate. But on some level, it feels safe and familiar to me, like to be in a very controlled. And so for a long time, I even attracted and was in a very controlling romantic relationship, because it was mimicking and familiar to me. That's what I actually, even though I hated it and I rebelled against it, my subconscious, to me, wanted it because that felt safe and familiar. And so I have and continue to do a lot of work on clearing that up and actually merging with I call, it's the shadow, the part of me that actually gets off on that enjoys that sort of control dynamic. And so having is evidence of wanting. So you have to really start noticing and appreciating that on some level, everything in your life, you are getting something from it.
Right.
And until you're willing to embrace everything, and I mean that 110%, meaning every single and the quicker that you embrace it, what happens is it will literally vanish. It dematerializes because you're wrapping it in love.
Right.
And so it's going to dissolve. It dissolves this you feeling that you're disempowered, or you're feeling like a victim of your circumstances,
Can I
because you
interrupt for a
realize,
sec? I want to interrupt.
yeah.
I want to interject on what you were saying because I had some questions
Okay.
and thoughts, but I definitely have felt that uh, spiritual dynamic recently of embracing the things that I could not tolerate, which is what I heard a lot from what you just said, and how freeing it was. A good example for me, one of my biggest pet peeves
Well,
is
wait a minute. I don't actually, I'm going to say something. Like, there's a fine line between embracing, and it's more about embracing it within you.
mm-hmm,
So, for example, if there's something in like, I personally, every time I see people wearing masks, that goes again. Like, that is like,
You had to take a moment to.
yeah. And so I will not stand for that. I'm not gonna, oh yeah, it's okay. Like, I'm just gonna, it's like a spiritual bypass. No, I'm not available to spiritually bypass and be like, oh, well, let me just embrace it. No, there are two paths, meaning there are two pillars, the left and the right hand. And one of those is about fucking being an assassin and being like, I will not fucking stand for this. I will not.
right,
Like, this is a no. This is a fucking hard no, line in the sand. I'm not okay with this because this is not in alignment with my vision. Okay. And at the same time, there's also massive, massive grace and massive forgiveness that we get to have for ourselves, because everything that is outside of us on some level is also inside of us. So when you have that grace and that compassion to clean it up inside of you, then you have this balance, this beauty between taking a stand and standing up for what is right and speaking your truth around what you will not tolerate. And yet at the same time, it's coming from a place of sovereignty. It's not coming from a place of blame or from a place of there's like a neutrality around it, meaning where you're just very clear of like, no, like this is not a part of my vision. And yet at the same time, like, it has no power over me.
right.
Does that make sense? Does
Yeah,
that land?
it does.
Not accepting
We
it.
might be lost in semantics a little bit, but I just want to share my story and see if it makes more sense. Um, like one of my biggest pet peeves is being in a public theater and having people pull out their phones in the middle of the movies. Like I literally in the past have gone into like tirades where I will assault the people verbally and literally wait at the side of the theater trying to start some type of confrontation with them because I get so angry. I know it sounds weird for me, but I'm a mixture of like love and hate.
No,
Anyway,
well, here's
but wait,
the
let me
thing, is
finish.
that
Let me finish.
every single one of us has something that we will not tolerate.
Yeah.
And this is
Well, I
actually
want to
me
talk about how I healed.
into,
I want to talk about how I healed that situation.
okay, go ahead.
I noticed because it was happening so much because the universe was wanting me to be like, look at how much you let this bother you. That I started to stop being angry about it and started noticing that creation or the hologram we live in was really trying to make a point for me to notice how much I was allowing this dynamic to get me out of my balance. And so this is where I was talking about embrace, or what I thought was getting from what you said, kind of embracing it to let it go. And so the when I started seeing people do it, instead of allowing myself to be triggered like I normally am, and this is the same trigger that happens for lots of other subjects for me, and I'm sure other people, as far as stuff you won't tolerate. I love how you say that. Instead, I said to myself, I'm not going to let this moment ruin the movie or my balance for me. And so I'm just going to ignore what they're doing because I'm so tired of fighting that. I'm so tired of fighting that trigger that I'm just going to let it go, and I'm just going to keep enjoying this movie. And I'm going to, what I do is I block my eyes like this a little bit, like if they're in the same aisle, so that I don't have to see the glow of the light, and I just go back to focusing on the joy of watching this movie that I paid money for, that I'm excited to see. And what I recognized was, as I accepted that I wasn't going to allow this thing that I can't tolerate to get me out of my center or disturb my frequency, that it disappeared to where I don't see it very often anymore. It's very rare that I'll see it. And when I do see it, I always think to myself, oh, did I need a reminder about things that get me out of my center? And let me take that power back and remind myself that I'm in charge of my emotional state, not events or other people. And that's what I got from what you had said about that. And it might have been a little bit misconstrued with the embracing it. I didn't mean embracing it as far as acceptance, because I do not accept those things that I cannot tolerate, but I also do not have to allow them to disrupt my frequency. And that's what I was sharing.
Well, there's a couple of things that I want to, in the work that I do, and actually this is a big part of, this is the Mars Moxie program that I was talking about before, and working with, this is like the divine masculine, the warrior energy is number one, like, and this is what you exemplified beautifully, is you have to pick and choose your battle. Like a good warrior, like, when you're fighting and you're going to fight against another fighter, like there's a strategy, right? It's like you're knowing and being wise as to what is the appropriate battle. Like, what is in service to the heart, like picking and choosing your battles, number one. The second thing, that if you feel okay with doing this, I would love to hear more about this, is I would like to know, what is the reason so everything that we have that we get angry about, meaning something where it's like it really, and it could be something so small, like you're saying, like it's something so small that maybe to somebody else it doesn't mean anything, but to you it's enough that it lights something up inside of you. And so for you, this is actually a virtue. It's a virtue that you carry. And so what is it about that is actually getting you angry? What is it disrespect, that they're disrespecting artists? What is it about that experience that you value, or it's a virtue, it's something that you feel is so sacred and so special?
You're asking, right?
I am asking you if you feel like you would like to share that.
I do want to share it, and this is something I'm working on within myself. And like I said, I don't really believe in church or religion. Like I think your connection with the divine, the lessons you're getting, it's a very individual thing. And so when I say something has taught me, or I feel this way, I've never been like, so you need to do it too, or you should try this. I've always been like, this is what's worked for me. And one of the things that I have been taught in my conditioning and pattern creating of my own life is to be a man and to be strong, and to do what men do, and to guard your territory and protect your family. None of these things, which are bad things, but when you take something good and you fill it full of steroids, now I'm having combative moments with some dad who maybe he's not thinking, and his wife's in labor, and he's taking his kids to see a movie, and he's just wanting to check his phone, and I'm not saying it's always innocent. Sometimes it's complete blatant assholism, people not giving a crap about other people's money that they're spending or their family, but sometimes there is those cases where maybe someone just, they're on their phone for a reason that's, and so I realized that me adhering so much to this code that I needed to keep to be a man so that I could respect myself was actually pulling me out of my center. It was pulling me out of my spiritual growth. It was causing me to act in a way that was often unbecoming of a loving, compassionate human being. Because there's a time for all things, yes, including smacking someone in the face, but it's not all the time, and it's not every single time someone pulls a cell phone out at a theater, which was kind of the mode I was caught up in for a minute. So I think what I'm trying to, the short answer to your question is, I have been conditioned in a way that I'm very peaceful, loving, and kind, but I have all these lines subconsciously drawn. And if you cross them, there are reasons why I'm going to take it to this level. And what I have started to realize recently through that example that I just gave about cell phones and my own pet peeves, and there's other ones I would like to use too, because there's lots of them in my area, because like you said earlier, I think the more you can, I don't know, you didn't like the word accept, but I think the more that you can let things that might have bothered you once not bother you anymore, you strengthen your chi, you strengthen your center, you strengthen your well-being, your frequency. So I'm on that path more than the labels of, well, this is how I got to live or be or act or react to be a man. Getting out of that ego space, out of that mind space, into a more spiritual heart space of, well, yeah, those rules are true for me. At the same time, they're not absolutes, because if I keep living based on those rules, I'm not optimizing my connection with the divine and my spirituality and just my becoming the best human I can be. Because without that balance of compassion and empathy and knowing that not every circumstance is the same circumstance, I'm limiting myself to becoming a robot of conditioning or a robot of patterns. And that's what I see a lot of like I'll meet a lot of good people, or I'll quotation that, Mark, because that we use quotations when we don't really mean it. But I will meet a lot of good people that are really just following a lot of good patterns, and so they end up doing a lot of fucked up shit because they think it's good. Like, you don't agree with someone's parenting, so you decide to report them to a government agency that'll steal their children away because you're not into grass. You know, you drink a 12-pack every day and you drink a half a bottle of whiskey every week, but someone else wants to smoke grass, so now that's upset your sensitivity, so you got to report them to an agency that'll steal their children away because it happens to be illegal in some of the states that haven't caught up to the present moment yet. And that's what I mean by why it's so important to heal yourself from just the patterns of being good. Because there's a lot of good-hearted people that smoke grass. And I'm not even saying just grass. There's a lot of good-hearted people that curse like a sailor. There's a lot of good-hearted people that believe in spanking their kids. Not all the time. Not the only form of discipline, but sometimes they do. There's a lot of good-hearted people that curse out their wives or husbands every now and then because they're pissed off. And if that's your choice over putting your hands on them or leaving them for good, maybe that's a good alternative, because we're all so different. But one of the things I learned from my ex-wife was I could not tolerate that she was okay with smoking in the house or around the kids when she was pregnant. Or when she was pregnant. I couldn't, like, it would drive, it was another cell phone thing. It drove me insane. But after several years of marriage and a divorce, and learning more about her instead of just looking at the outside cover looking in, I grew up in a home where my dad smoked in the truck with us, and I hated that. Or he smoked outside, because my mom definitely wasn't going to allow that. And he wasn't a big drinker. There wasn't a lot of drinking in my house. So that was kind of that was like the limit of shit I had to put up with growing up, besides the physical stuff and the verbal stuff, because we all have different stories about what we had to put up with. But for me, that was my limitation in my story. My ex-wife, on the other hand, her parents
let me say
were
it a
drug
different
addicts.
way.
Finish this one topic, because it's such an important thing.
I don't think that you got the question that I asked.
I just want to finish this statement though. Then say whatever you want to say. But my ex-wife, her experience was drug addicted parents doing heroin, doing meth, doing coke. So from her perspective, smoking in the house is not that big a deal. So going back to why, or whatever, I don't know what your purpose was for asking me, but what I got out of that question was some of the things that bother me based on other people's perspective are not that big a deal, but they're a big deal to me. And they were causing me to get out of my spiritual center and balance and disrupt my frequency. And that's something I didn't like because I like to maintain my happiness and my peace and my frequency. And I will never control other people. Cell phones, smoking in the house, whatever. So I have to focus on learning to control myself and my own vibration and frequency. So I just wanted to say that if I misunderstood your question, you'll have to rephrase it to me.
That's okay. And I am going to do it because it's important. And so I'm going to say it a different way so that perhaps it lands. So I say this a lot. A rose is not a rose without thorns. So meaning that because this rose is so beautiful, but if it doesn't have thorns, it has thorns for a reason, meaning it has that edge, it has that spike to protect it, to uphold its beauty. If it didn't have all of these, because it smells so beautiful, right? All of the animals want to be around this rose. And so it naturally has this built-in defense system so that it can maintain its integrity, so that it can remain beautiful. And this is what whenever we feel anger, it is because on some level a boundary has been crossed. And so our job, if we really want to mature and have clarity around what we are here to uphold, what do I stand for? Pay attention to what pisses you off. And meaning something that is maybe seems so trivial, like you're saying, like, so, and that's the question is, what is it about this scenario of either people not, my light just went off here. Hold on one second. What is it about that scenario, people that are either not respecting, something that you consider important, whether it's sacred time with your family to enjoy a movie, whether it's a piece of art, like what does the symbol of a movie, like what does that mean to you, the fact that you would get angry about it? Because underneath that means it's something that it's a virtue that you want to uphold the beauty of it like you would a rose. And so your anger, and I'm not to say that you're allowed, so what I think is where maybe you're not hearing like how what I was saying before is like, so for example, when I was getting angry about the masks, I was realizing that for me to just be fucking angry and pissed off and like saying all this shit on the internet about people with masks, which I totally did, it was like, wait a minute. If I am truly, truly angry about this because I feel it is a breach of freedom, of our personal rights, of liberty and our pursuit of liberty as human beings on this planet, if I really care about it that much, am I really doing it justice by doing like these little, getting angry on the street and saying shit underneath my breath to people that are wearing masks, like, look at this idiot and blah, 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 blah. Like, no, like I'm not really honoring the sacredness of why it gets me angry, that I have to mature my vision. I have to mature and actually own that, man, this means something to me. So if it really means something to me, what do I need to be doing about it to make change in the world? And so when you find what these little things are that piss you off, like look deeper. Like, what is it about that I'm really upset about? You know, like what is it? What's the underlying, what is it? What's the virtue that's underneath it?
Okay. So I think you wanted to know kind of the why, and I told you how I kind of got over it. That's where I got off. Yeah. Well, I kind of
Because I don't believe we should get over it. And that's kind of what I'm saying is I don't believe I should get over people wearing masks. It's just I have to up my game, and I have to choose to devote to take a stand, and not just, oh, well, it's just the way that it is. No, I don't. For me personally, I don't think that that is serving the highest level version of me and who I came here to be, and because I have children. What kind of world do I want my children to grow up in? So if I really do care about this, and I say I care about it, then that requires more of me.
To like be the change you want to see.
Right.
What?
To be the change you want to see in that instance.
Exactly. So exactly. And so I had to do my work, and I still am like doing around, okay, so what do I need to do? What plan do I need to implement? What sort of, you know, like, and so I connected with my father. You know, for those of you who don't know, like I come from a political family background. You know, my uncle was a state senator, and I come from a family of attorneys. So this is within my DNA. Like I have this energy within me to be a part of social change. So it makes sense that this would be something inside of me. So I connected with my father about, you know, going to the local, the meetings for the Broward County school system, so that I could do something about the fact that there's children, you know, wearing masks at 7 years old, which I am not okay with, right? And it was just like, I had to turn that mirror within and be like, well, what are you going to do about it? And so I started taking steps towards implementing that. And, you know, and also the work that I'm doing, you know, one-on-one and my group programs is about that, is waking people up to them taking a stand, right? And bringing awareness to what they don't think is right in the world, and questioning everything. Why do we have to wear these masks? Is this actually something that is the best? You know what I mean?
Let me interrupt for a second then.
Yeah, I want you to tell me. I really want to know what this thing is.
Yeah, so I agree with you about the mask. I've been on television several times here.
No, I want to know what pisses you off about people watching movies and making noise.
Gotcha. Let me back it up though. I need to address that too though. But
okay.
I agree with that completely. I've been on TV a couple times talking about being anti-mask and anti-vax.
For obvious reasons.
Which for me is obvious reasons, which is basically basic freedom. But the reason why I'm not that bent out of shape for it, the cell phone thing is, one, I do things all the time, which the most effective thing is just to get up and go tell the manager, and then the manager will either tell them to turn the phone off or to leave the theater. So I do believe in taking action. What I was saying I don't believe in is allowing myself to leave a place of peace because of other people's actions. And that is something I'm against, not against others, I'm against myself doing that. And again, it bothers me because of the same reason the mask bothers you, or is that I don't know about why it does you, but for me, I feel it's an infringement on my freedom when someone decides to pull their cell phone out in the middle of a movie, because we all paid good money to go in there and enjoy this movie, and someone selfishly says, well, I don't care about what you paid, because we all make different amount of money. For some of us, that might be nothing. For some of us, that might be a good portion of your pay to take you and your kid there for $50 to have some popcorn and a soda and watch a movie. So I would take deep offense to it when it would occur for a long time. But then what I started noticing as I was a little bit more focused on changing myself over changing the world was that I needed to be a little more, why am I allowing myself to lose my peace over it? So I started focusing more on that. Something else that you said, though, as far as I think there's certain things that are where my focus needs to be on me and not others. And there's certain thing where I do have to address others because they're trying to affect me. The mask and the vax and all that's just a good place for that. Because it's not that they're just saying, that's fine. We'll just get masked and we'll quarantine ourselves and we'll, wear masks. There's a lot of talk and there's a lot of places where they've already mandated that no, everyone has to do it and you have to do it too. And if you don't do it, like all the medical professionals who you think might know something about viral diseases and how that are quitting their jobs or leaving the military because they don't believe in the science either, and they don't, they would rather lose a job that they probably need over being forced to do something they know isn't right. The cell phone thing is a little different though, again, but like I said, it's a lot of it comes from just those labels that we adopt, like I'm a man and I need to protect my environment wherever I'm at. And so if this person
that has different connotations,
different.
If this person pulls out their phone, I need to let them know that that's not cool. And I do that a lot. I find myself often playing the warrior role because it was an archetype that I adopted for many years, but I had this recent discovery and epiphany in meditation where I was like, you know what, I might let that go and be somebody else for the rest of my life because I'm kind of tired of fighting with everyone, including myself and the world. So I felt this shift. I actually made a post maybe just last night or the night before about how I don't really want to focus too much on combat and warring because that's kind of been my story for a long time. It's the story I grew up with. It was the story that I accepted as a young man. It was the story of my profession and what I've done for the last 20 some odd years as a career. And one of the things I love about music, because you know me well too, that I've always kind of done both. And for me, my music is not about warring. It's a peaceful place that I go to release energy and to connect with people and share stories about my life and help people feel better either through joy or just the connection of pain. And the fighting and the warring and all, that kind of stuff, I don't feel I necessarily need to carry that on because I've created an amazing business with amazing coaches and managers that can carry it on for me. And so I kind of want to turn my attention to rocking asses coast to coast and doing something different.
Hell yeah.
But, the good thing about me is I'll always be Batman. I can take off my costume, but I'm still going to be Batman. When stuff breaks out in the world, which happens every now and then, I always handle it. And the beautiful thing is not only can I handle it with violence, but I'm pretty good at handling it with compassion too, which in my opinion is more important.
I also do like the distinction that Dr. Pierre said about the difference between idly complaining or idly just identifying what the problem is and yet finding a clear path to going and making that change and actually being part of the solution, even if it's a small part, because obviously you're not going to be able to stand on the top of a hill and be, stop doing whatever it is, but it is important.
I think we as artists, though, actually have that capability, and that's one of the things I love about being artists, because the common person usually only has their small community of family and friends and blah blah blah. But if you're a business person or you're an artist or something of that such, you tend to have a bigger audience. And
certainly more so.
Yeah, and I think balance is what I hear in those things, because I think both you should be effective and take action where you feel it's necessary. You also don't need to allow the world to send you into a disruptive, chaotic frequencies, and then you also become one of these chaotic frequencies. I noticed that a lot with the political scheme. A lot of my friends who were really loving, rational people became these complete neurotic savages because they were whipped into a tizzy by propaganda and the whole political machine of pick a side, red, blue, conservative, commies, that. And I was just like, man, do you guys not see what's going on? Because I've been saying for a few years now, especially when it was very unpopular a few years ago, but I've had more and more people chiming in on me and now saying it to their circles, and that's that we're looking at the same bird with two different, two different wings on the same bird, and that the 1% who run the world, which a lot of rich people think they might be a part of, but they're not, are just being played by this whole good cop, bad cop routine that's sending people into this tizzy, so they don't focus on what the 1%'s doing. Instead, they focus on this, this little play that they think that's going on between the good cop, bad cop, when in fact, there's a lot of things going on behind the curtain and even in front of the curtain, but they're so, they know they have so much power, they don't even care, that they're just kind of doing whatever they want. But it's one of those things where I don't think, you definitely need to take action and wise up, but a lot of people need to focus on the wising up right now, because even really smart, intelligent, compassionate, loving people I know are being duped by the propaganda machine that's out in the world right now, telling people that there's two sides, and that one of them hates life and babies in America and the other side is completely for it. Like, it's just, it's ridiculous. So I want to go on to something else, because we kind of been talking about this for a minute, but you offer a lot of amazing products and services that, from my outside looking in perspective, have a lot to do with women empowerment and probably regaining your sexual power. And maybe you could be, I'm not going to know them as well, so I wanted you to talk a little bit about what you focus on as far as your own work. I know you do a lot of things, so that's kind of a broad answer, but
Yeah, so the focus behind my offerings is sovereignty. And so that starts with sexual sovereignty, because sexual energy is creative energy. Yes, sexual energy is it's baby making energy, but so the ability to create new life. So that means if you want to be the creator of your life, the designer of your life, that requires sexual energy. And so when you have, and there's a lot of programming and conditioning around, and shaming and all of this kind of stuff around, and I feel and I see it is, a lot of people just don't, like, when we think about sexual energy, we think it's friction, like, having sex, right? But sexual energy is just energy. It is the source of how we make life. It is the energy that creates worlds. So once people start reclaiming that, like fully claiming their sexual sovereignty, then from there, that's actually how you can rise up. So, and this starts at the root chakra. The root chakra is all about safety, security, and survival. And so if you are cut off from your sexual energy, then you will always feel like you're in survival mode. So you can't be in creative mode and survival mode at the same time. So yes, a lot of my services and products are rooted with that foundation. It's like you can't really do anything until you address that foundation, because that's the source. And then from there, you start rising up into relationship sovereignty, financial sovereignty, into health sovereignty, So as far as working with me, my brand Star Disco is Astro Magic and Fitness for Sexy Witches. So this is working with the light of the stars and channeling that literally. So, I'm not going to, let me stay right here, because I could go on and on and on about that. If that's more that you want, then, come and follow me. But for the purpose of this podcast, this celestial fire, the light source, we have access to, and we can bring that into our body to build our light body, to build our health. And then we can also use that to in soul objects to create objects that have a life of their own. So this is the art of astro magic. And Star Disco, Astro Magic and Fitness for Sexy Witches, is holistic in that, you know, this is about working with the energies that are alive right now. So meaning, you know, we're always in a different season. There's always, you know, a different thing that's happening. And the more that you're in tune with what's happening, it's like, for example, if it's cold outside and it's rainy, most likely you're not going to go outside in a bikini. You could for some thrill and some fun, but if you were just living in your bikini and it was snowing and cold and wet, you're going to have a tough time fucking doing your shit, you know, like living your life. And so we have these astrological energies that are the terrain, the environment that we're living in. So when you become aware of what's happening, you know, oh, this is like, you know, the energy that's naturally available that I can work with and I can start using. And you're going to be much more in harmony and much more in tune by working and connecting with that. So that's what Star Disco is about. It's about becoming aware of that and realizing that these are also rites of passages, meaning that, you know, when we have periods in our life where maybe things are really challenging, and or conversely where things are going really well, that's actually a rite of passage. And this is something that we've lost in our modern culture. You know, ancient civilizations and ancient peoples used to, like at 13 years old, you know, boys would go out into the wilderness to go on some sort of spirit quest, right, to connect with their truth and bring that back to their community. And this would enter them into their, you know, their service to the community. And these happen at all different ages. They're happening all the time, but we have lost that art. We don't, I mean, bod mitzvahs and bod mitzvahs, like that's maybe one of the places that we see it, and it's still just scratching the surface that all of these rites of passages that we're always having this opportunity to be initiated into, to gain greater meaning in our life, to follow things that have heart and love for us. And so that's also one of the tenets or pillars that my Star Disco brand is built upon, is awakening you to these rites of passages, you know, and aligning you to them and working with these, with the alignment of the stars. And through doing that, you know, you increase your vitality, your sense of purpose and passion for life. And you can use this energy for whatever you want.
I want to say something that we brought up from season 1 that some people might not have seen, so I wanted to recap, especially for my area, because this is a very strongly Judeo-Christian area, you know, the South, and a lot of people here, you know, you mentioned one of the common responses I get, which I love because it's so fake, and like this area to me is notorious for being fake, is like I'll ask somebody what sign they are, and they'll say something like, what are you talking about? Like I don't know what you're talking. Like they know exactly what I'm talking about, but they've been trained or conditioned to pretend they don't know what I'm talking about. But for the rest of the world that's been following horoscopes for eons before there was even, you know, the first religions, which came through Mesopotamia, through the well, not just the Toltec, but that was South America, the Vedics. But this is still a very powerful and used line of connection with the divine, and you know quite a bit about it. I only know little bit. You know, I followed my own sign since I was young, Pisces, and I know what I know mostly about myself and my own sign, and I've been following pretty consistently again for the past year. And one of my habits is to listen to many people and then try to discern my reality and truths based on the consistency of common reports. I do that quite a bit. Every once in a while, I'll pay for an actual report, and it's very powerful. And I want to give an example. I had a student come in a few months ago, and one of my horoscope the day before said someone's going to get your brand tattooed on them. And come on, that is such a random thing for you to either read here, like for to hear someone's going to get your brand. And one of my students comes in the next day and goes, "Hey sensei, look at my new tattoo," and he's got our logo, the first
That's
logo.
amazing. That's so cool.
But for me, that's not even weird. Like, that's the common report that I get from following the divine. I listen to that like people listen to the weather report, because I literally know what type of energy to expect from people for a week, and you know so much.
It's a language of energy. Very simple. Astrology is a language of energy.
I love that.
So if you want to communicate about energy and you want to communicate about frequency, astrology is a language. It's a whole language that's already been created, that all you have to do is, like, for example, there's this another great quote. Forgive me, I'm going to find who it's written in the stars. Learn to read. Very simple. It's written in the stars. Learn to read.
Right.
And here's the deal, right? Is thousands of years ago, this wasn't like reserved for just like the woo-woo community, for the spiritual community. Everybody paid attention.
Even
to,
recently.
because you had to know when to plant your crops.
Exactly.
You had to know when to go to war.
Even recently, one of the Republican Party's greatest heroes, the Reagans, and I loved Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan, but it has been verified that they were using horoscopes to set U.S. policy. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even an ancient thing. Like, a lot of people in the know are using it, but you'll hear a lot of people who are very dogmatic about their old-time religion, that it's satanic and demonic. And what do you have to say about something like that? Because these are topics.
J.P. Morgan is
of course.
Millionaires don't use astrology. Billionaires do.
Well, that makes sense. But what's your
answer? Like, this is something that's like, it's been around for a really, really long time, and it's really about orientation. Like, traditionally sailors, that they use the stars to navigate. And so that's what I mean by, if you live your life, like, if you want to live your life, so this is the other way I describe Star Disco. It's a choose your own adventure program, except with your life. So if you want to live your life like you're on an adventure, then you're going to want a map. You're going to want something to help orientate you. So, because you're going to be going on uncharted territory. And it's important, though, that you don't, like, and this is, a lot of people, though, can do this, where they get all caught up in the map, meaning they lose sight of the actual living experience. They're always reading their horoscope. They're giving all of their power over to, well, my horoscope said this, and then my astrologer said this, and the da-da-da-da. And it's like, yeah, okay, but you are a star. So it's not about giving over your power, like, or you're at the whim and the mercy of the stars. Absolutely not. Star Disco is about, and my intention with it is that we are all stars. We are all made of stardust, and that when we own the power of the light source that we are, then we can come together with the power of the stars, where the star seeds that we come from, the different, the Pleiades and Orion and Aldebaran and all of these different, star systems, Andromeda, that literally seeded this planet. We can reconnect with those light sources and make magic, because that's essentially what magic is. It's two light sources coming together and creating something new. And so, but in order to do that, you have to be in your personal sovereignty first, which is why I spoke about, first, it's about reclaiming your personal sovereignty, your sexual energy, your vitality, your financial sovereignty, and rising that all up so that you're in your personal power. And then from here, we can truly come to others and be allies.
That made more sense to me when you said it the second time. I didn't get it the first time, but the second time I got it more. And what I'm hearing is when you heal yourself of those things that are keeping you from being whole, that's when you begin to grow. That's when
that's where you have your freedom.
Yeah, that's when you begin to be able to take charge of your reality.
Healing is growth.
And most people
healing energy,
right.
Sexual energy is the most healing energy on the planet. Point done. So as soon as you start healing, you're using sexual energy to heal, you're reconnecting with, and you're growing. And as you grow, then, you're able to dance. You're able to dance your dance. Sing your song, dance your dance, and then you connect with the people. And this is to really kind of bring this full circle. As you started the podcast, you were talking about, doing things that was different from what other people are telling you. And there is something to be said about when you're on your own journey, really, and you're following your own path, that sometimes what happens is you have to go alone. You'll have periods of your life where, the people that you thought were your friends, or the people that you thought, were really in your corner, or that, the people that you thought you were in alignment with, that were your allies, when you start growing and changing and they're not growing and changing with you or at the same rate as you, then sometimes you will lose people. But those were never your people to begin with. Really, if you're really honest with yourself, they were there for who you were then.
Right.
But if that isn't who you are, but you have to know that the more that you keep going, if you have the courage to keep going and be willing to let go of what really isn't on, in highest, in your best benefit for you, you will start to attract your true tribe. You will start to connect with the people that can really, connect with you from a place of freedom, not from a place of codependency, manipulation, control, none of that. So it's worth it. It is so worth it. And so I just want to say that to anyone that is, because I've been there. I've been where I have gone through, periods and spells where I felt so alienated and I felt so disconnected and I felt so sad and I felt angry and I felt like, oh my God, like, am I ever going to find real friends in my life? And, who really, are my people? But I had to be willing to separate myself from the crowd so that I could get clear with who I was and where I wanted to go. And then once I got that going, my magnetism grew. And when that magnetism starts, then you'll naturally draw in. You will become a magnet to your people.
We have about 15 minutes left before we need to close, and I wanted you to make sure you definitely gave your contact and any closing thoughts. But one thing I wanted to ask you a couple questions on what you talked about that I wanted an answer for, a quick answer on a couple things, because I want to make sure they get answered for me, because I'm going to be self first right now and ask you some things I want to know. So, what are some techniques as far as healing yourself? I'll use myself as an example. I definitely had a sexually dysfunctional upbringing and background. I was probably about 8 or 9 when a daughter of one of my mother's friends, who was a GI's wife, there's a very kind of hidden secret in that community that a lot of people don't talk about, and that's how a lot of military guys will marry these women from these third world countries, and they will completely abuse and take advantage of them. And their children. And this guy was molesting his daughter and using his wife poorly, and I didn't know. I'm just a kid. We're over there hanging out with them, and this is here in Abilene, and I'm over there with her, and I'm probably Bubby's age. I'm 7, 8. I can't be very old, but she's kind of like, and she's like 13, 14, and she's like, hey, touch me here and do this to me here, and this is like one of my first experiences as a person with sexuality. And I know it affected me, and this is one of many stories, but this is just one I want you to help me focus on a little bit of how I can heal if healing's even necessary. Because often I'll tell people, well, I thought it was cool, I thought it was neat, but to be honest, I probably also was frightened, and I was felt like I didn't know what was going on and uncomfortable, and I'm sure it affected me later on because I kind of felt like, well, women want me to do this, and it started up this pattern of almost like maybe misogynistic patterns that it's taken me a long time to break free from. So I want to know your thoughts on this.
Okay. So,
Which I don't even know if I've even ever shared that. So let's do it worldwide on the podcast.
well, first, like, thank you so much for being so, open and courageous and brave to share your story, because, sexuality is something that it's very intimate, right? It's the essence of sexuality is it's, and, intimacy, really, if we want to, like, because there's a difference. Like, you can have sex with, zero intimacy, but that you're really missing the potency and the magic of, sexuality, right? Is the merging of masculine and feminine energy together. So it probably, and if that's not really happening, then first of all, the the healing potential is, number one, you're wasting energy because it's creative energy. And so if you're not really getting that exchange, of fully, as a man, the purpose of masculine energy is to illuminate the dark.
I like that.
So, yeah, you're a light, you're a wand. So your phallus, is a wand of light. And so
Yeah,
the
it
woman,
is.
yeah, yeah. And
And from now on, it will be known as the wand of light.
and there is, I mean, as a woman, like, I can speak from a place of, the feminine is, we are the darkness. We are the never ending abyss.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the unknown.
Mm.
So when we meet with a man, when we connect with the masculine energy, what we get is we get safety.
Yay,
It's like, I'm in the
radars
dark.
are there.
I'm in the dark, but the light is now here.
Mm.
And so as a man, if you really want to approach a woman so that she can feel like really submit to your leadership, because that's what you're doing, is you're leading her into her feelings so that she can surrender. And, like, that's where the wetness starts happening, right? That's where the opening starts happening. That's where the feelings, and you're in the, that you start entering into the astral realm of, like, I'm in the fucking sky.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is, that's where the magic starts happening. But that really doesn't happen, until, you approach a woman with making sure that she feels safe, that she trusts you, that you are there to be the dominant, that you're here to lead her, that you're here to lead her into her feelings, that it's safe for her to lose control. Because you're being the control for her. You're being not the control. You're being that rock, or that structure that allows her to just let go.
Like security.
And exactly, because woman is water. Woman has no boundary. It's like the ocean, right? It's
fluid.
And that cannot fully be unleashed right? Until that container is established. So going back to you being, you know, I think you said you were 7, or what was your
Yeah,
age you
something
said?
like that. I don't remember
7.
exactly. I have such a
Okay. So, and just bringing that like here and into the now is, um, you know, as a man now, and what you know now, right? What would you tell your little boy? What would you tell your inner child? What would he have wanted to know in that scenario? Like how to approach.
Oh, I would probably let him know that that he wasn't bad for anything that occurred
Mm-hmm.
there, and that it wasn't his responsibility what occurred, and that whatever impression it left that might have caused negative behavior later was his responsibility to heal. Yet, I understand that it wasn't something that he just decided one day he was gonna have sex with a lot of girls because that seemed so natural and pressed upon you that there's so much stuff that people don't talk about as far as why men are so misogynistic. They just kind of shout that they're misogynistic at them as loud as they can and as ugly as they can. But they don't understand that the culture is so pro men being like men, in using our quotation marks again, and that a man's masculinity is deemed in the number of women that he beds, and that how some young men who want to be romantic and want to be loving and kind and monogamous get lost and caught up in that lie, and will actually cause themselves a lot of suffering and pain, and the people they care about a lot of suffering and pain, because they buy into that stereotype that's sold to us by culture and Hollywood and music, when a lot of men want to be romantic and be monogamous and be good to the partners. They don't want to follow some label of, it's almost like the thing I was saying about the violence with the cell phone. Like, there's probably no reason for me to want to get violent with somebody for turning their cell phone in on a theater, no matter how disruptive it is. Like I said, there's an option to go tell the manager and not make it violent at all. Yet my cultural conditioning tells me to fuck this, fuck that up, and fuck you for not agreeing with me. And what I've learned growing up some in the last couple years is that that conditioning and that pattern is not healthy for most men, and that we need to be learning and teaching our boys something different. And I have 2 young boys that I'm trying to raise better than I was raised right now, and one of the ways to do that is I have to heal what wasn't right with me, because I can't teach them something I wasn't taught. So, that's kind of where I wanted to do that. And honestly, I think we probably need to do a two-parter. I want to bring you back on maybe after a few guests in a few months or in a month, and do another part, because I feel like we could definitely do a
conversation. Oh my
yeah, we
goodness.
could do a few days probably on your knowledge and everything you know. But I don't most of the time we're going to have an audience that kind of has about a 2 hour listening window before they start tuning out. And I don't want them to not catch the end where you tell them where they can find you, where they can get a hold of you. Because a lot of people, I don't know if anyone got a hold of you from season 1, but I know from my own friend circle, I saw your name on their friends list. So that live here in Abilene and the big country and a few of the other places that I'm popular in.
Well, for your Abilene listeners, so that y'all know, like I was raised, in Ocala, which is Central Florida. So, I'm very much aware of, and I was raised in part of that Bible Belt. So I'm very familiar, and I myself, went through and experienced the conditioning that is there in that Bible Belt, that says that, you know, don't have sex before you're married, and like all of the shaming around sexuality and magic and astrology and all these things. So, it's not like I haven't been there. Like I am a walking, talking example of somebody who has was raised in that culture, and that cleared and continues to clear the conditioning of dogmatic religion and cultural programming. So if that's you and you resonate with this, and deep down inside you know, you want money and you want sex and you want power, I am your lady. You can find me at Siren Creatrix, which is my alter ego. And that's also the name that, you know, I use when for my singing and my performances.
Spell that for
And that's
us
spelled
because I can never. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Siren Creatrix. So it's Siren, Siren, and then Creatrix, Creatrix.
You need to
Siren
get
Creatrix
you,
on
you
Instagram.
need to get an easier handle for people that you want to actually find you.
I'll consider that.
Just being honest. But maybe not. Maybe you want to be a hidden gem. I get that too.
Or be unique.
We changed Chaikong Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai to CJJ MMA because I realized I wanted to be a $1 billion company and not a $100,000 company. Just FYI.
Thank you for sharing your advice. So that's where you can find me. My name is Stephanie Crystal Pierre. You can find me, you know, on Facebook that way. You send me a message. What else? Oh, so that's it. Like, those are the best ways. You know, you can send me an email, and if we can, I'll have all of this information included in the notes of this podcast so that you can just access it as a link.
Great.
Very simple. And as far as, like, you know, your sexuality is innocent. The essence of sexuality is innocent. So to, you know, really bring this to a close, and in your question, Jimmy, and for everyone else that's tuning in, is whatever sexual experiences that you have had, is at the nature of it, underneath all of it, is just love. It's love and wanting to see yourself.
That's a great thesis.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Stephie P. I love you. You're beautiful. As I promised everyone here, you're a living goddess. You're a witchy woman, and these are all good things. I often wonder myself why we let it pass so easily. That what was up with these people that were burning all these women, and why do we not make a bigger deal about it? Like, it's like they burnt witches. Witches were moms and sisters and daughters, and some of them were just too beautiful or too outspoken, but we didn't like what they were saying. So and why is and what is weird to me though is they're almost equally demonized now, 200 years later, which is why slavery and movies about slavery, people are like, why are they always making these movies about? Well, because a lot of you crazy motherfuckers would like this shit to happen again. And it's vigilant people like me and Stephie and Radar that are going to make sure it doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
Because I have to protect my children from some of you psycho religious fanatics.
You and your crazy ideas.
Anyway, we appreciate you guys. The first episode of Season 2's World Class Fightcast. Big shout out to Radar Theory. Big shout out to CJJ MMA and all my brothers and sisters over there. Like I said, March 19th, we have our first combat jiu-jitsu event at Hef's in the mall, March 19th. If you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner and you want to get involved or a sponsor, hit us up. And Radar, you got anything you want to say?
I just appreciate everybody who tuned in, and it was great to meet you, Dr. Pierre, and I really appreciated having your ideas bounce off in my studio here a little bit.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Radar. I appreciate it.
Of course.
We'll see you guys next time with a new guest on the World Class Fightcast!